Tuan-tuan, bersamalah kita keluar mengundi untuk mendukung demokrasi negara.
Mari mengundi, bertenang dan hati-hati, uji.
Jalankan tanggungjawab kita sebagai pemilih untuk menentukan masa depan anda. Jangan lupa hak asasi kita sebagai pemilih.
Jomlah kita mengundi, barulah demokrasi kekal terpelihara.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening to our lecturer and my fellow friends. Today our group will present a topic about Malaysia election. So for our presentation are the first one, introduction. The second scope is objective. The third one, function of elections. The fourth one, type of election. The fifth, procedure and requirement. Sixth scope is candidates, and the last but not least, voters. Malaysia is a constitutional monarchy with a federal parliamentary democratic system headed by the King, Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Malaysia added to democracy, which is a political philosophy in which the government's policies are determined by the majority preference in a decision-making process, namely election. The party that win the election form the government. The Constitution of Malaysia provides for the establishment of an election commission whose duty is to conduct election to the House of Representatives and the legislative assemblies in all 13 states of Malaysia, as well as to prepare and revise electoral rules for such election. The Election Commission is also empowered by the Constitution to review the division of the Federation and the states into constituencies and recommend such change as they think necessary in order to comply with the provision stipulated in the 13th schedule of the Constitution. Next, I would like to call Noliza to present the next slide.
Thank you, Hamizal. I will continue with slide. The next slide is objective. The specific objective presentation are: number one is to provide an elaborate description of the type of election process in Malaysia, to provide an elaborate description about the procedure and requirement of the election, and the third, to provide an elaborate description of the voter and candidate in the election. Slide is what is election? Before we go any further, let me explain what an election is. An election is a secure way of choosing a representative to make a decision on certain government policy. Election can be held in any organization, whether private or corporate, such as worker unions, to select a representative or to resolve issues concerning policy or government institution. Election are the way of making political decisions through voting. Election are also used to choose leader and to determine issue. Through election, voters can choose candidate to solve social issues. Slide number 8, the function of election are: create a democratic nation, to maintain leadership, to choose candidate to fill the highest post in the government, strengthen the stability and legitimacy of an organization and political committee. Of election consists to four, which is there are federal and state election, local government election, and by-election. Federal election are 4 seats in Malaysia Dewan Rakyat, which is the lower house of parliament. And state election are foreseen in the country many state legislature. Many people in the majority party or coalition run for prime minister and chief minister at both the federal and state level. These jobs are often held by people in the governing party or coalition. Election are representative the state legislative assembly. A state level election is held. The number of representatives varies by state, ranging from 71 in Sarawak to 15 in Perlis. The state government will be formed by the party with the majority in the state assembly. Another type of the election is called by-election. This is held in the respective constituency when a member of the parliamentary state assembly die, resign or disqualified from holding the seat. The condition for a by-election is that the vacancy happen during the first 2 years after the general election that elected the current parliament or state assembly. Otherwise, the seat is left vacant until the next general election. Last, I call the last presenter Encik Saladin.
Ladies and gentlemen, the process of election, they have 6 steps. I will tell you about step by step. It will start with nomination day. Nomination day is the day to refer the day that set up for election commission to candidate to submit their nomination papers to the managing officer in the order of contest of election. The nomination papers are to be submitted by the candidates, proposal supporter, either one of them. The nomination paper must be submitted between 9 to 10 a.m. of the day of nomination. Then it goes to campaign. The election commission will draft a special rules on campaign to state in the election Offence Act in 2002. The campaign can only start after the nomination process has been complete and approved, and to be stopped at 12 midnight before the day election. Politics parties are allowed to present their explanation and respective manifesto. They also can use the electronic media, any social media. However, candidates are required to put a deposit for 5,000 for the parliamentary election and 3,000 for the state election. The deposit will be returned back through the campaign, and the police will time within 14 days to clear all the things about this release of the guideline contesting candidates and run into the peaceful. All form and accompanyings must be ended 12 midnight the day before election. Voting days. Voting days refer to the day voters and their cast their votes. The time casting votes is set from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening throughout Malaysia. Everybody from the rural area, mobiles, units are used to ensure the smoothness of the voting process. The time voting may differ to the district to district. The election commission usually release notice inform about the public and election matter, such as the date of voting, polling station, time and casting of the voters and voting centers, and the location of the counted submission. Vote counting. Vote counting carried out to the returning officer on the poll station and to the counting center. All the box of the voters and particulars constitutionally are counted by the managing officer and fixed votes counting center. And while counting the carry out, only authorized person can be at the counting center, such as a member of the officer of this election commission. Officer appointed by election commission. Officer then vote counting clerk, candidate representative, and vote counting agent only can be there. After the conclusion and vote counting of the polling stations, the vote counting center, the result voting submission to the managing officer of the vote submission center. The managing officer totals up all the voter, including the postal voter, and determine of the winner. Managing officer also will declare the candidates with the majority who elect as a representative of the constituency. Storage and disposal ballot paper. In election process, one important aspect to storage of ballot paper are other related documents. These documents must be kept in the box, special box, and locked witness and the candidate agents. The special boxes are stored for 6 months after the date of election, and this box must be supervising by the managing officer. The state director and election will keep the voter registry which has been signed and ballot paper counted for. This is to guarantee voting secrecy. The boxes can only be opened in order of the High Court charge, and there is a many if there are any petitions. After the period 6 months, the managing officer, upon obtaining permission from the election commission, will dispose the ballot paper and related document. The managing officer will then issue the certificate of disposal to the state director of the election. After period 6 months, the managing officer, upon obtaining permission from the election commission, will dispose again the all related documents and issue against a disposal state director election. Ladies and gentlemen, what are the qualifications to become a candidate? You must be a Malaysian citizen and residencies of this country. Number 2, age must not less than 21 of the day of nomination candidates and resident of the state where he or she is contesting. To qualify, he or she must not be a bankrupt, declared bankrupt, or have jails for more than 2 years or fine not more than 2,000 ringgit. This is the most important thing to become a candidate. An important element is the system of election is to the register of the voters and the election commission before voting as in an election for the Dewan Rakyat or State Legislative Assembly. In Malaysia, a person is eligible to register. He or she is a citizen of Malaysia, is not less than 21 years age on the date of registration, and the resident in any of the constitutions, and he has not lost eligibility